A reading from the first book of Samuel. On their way back, as David was returning after killing the Philistine, the women came out to meet King Saul from all the towns of Israel, singing and dancing to the sound of tambourine and lyre and cries of joy. And as they danced, the women sang, "Saul has killed his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." Saul was very angry. The incident was not his liking. "They have given David the tens of thousands," he said, "but me only the thousands. He has all but the kingship now." And Saul turned a jealous eye on David from that day forward. Saul told Jonathan his son and all his servants of his intention to kill David. Now Jonathan, Saul's son, held David in great affection, and so Jonathan warned David, "My father Saul is looking for a way to kill you," he said. "So be on your guard tomorrow morning. Hide away in some secret place. Then I will go and keep my father company in the fields where you are hiding, and I will talk to my father about you. I will find out what the situation is and let you know." So Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul his father. He said, "Let not the king sin against his servant David, for he has not sinned against you, and what he has done has been greatly to your advantage. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great victory for all Israel. You saw it yourself and rejoiced. Why then sin against innocent blood in killing David without cause?" Saul was impressed by Jonathan's words and took an oath. "As the Lord lives, I will not kill him." Jonathan called David and told him all these things. Then Jonathan brought him to Saul, and David attended on him as before. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So my dear brothers and sisters, we continue with the story of David, and today in the first reading, just three main characters. We have Saul, we have David, and Jonathan, who is the son of Saul. One of the greatest sins of the Israelites when they left Egypt was the sin of idolatry. They started to worship other gods, especially when they had arrived in the promised land. And this is one of the greatest warnings that the prophets gave to the people. And he said to them, "You must turn away from your sinfulness, mainly idolatry." The other one was the injustices against the poor, namely the widows and the orphans, but particularly idolatry, especially when Solomon took over as king. Solomon, we know, is the son of David, and after Solomon had taken over, then he married many wives from the neighboring nations, and because he had married and intermarried, he was forced to raise up altars for the false gods, the gods of the other nations, in order for his wives to worship. And because of that, there was the infiltration of of idolatry in this pure religion of the Israelites, who had worshipped just one God from the very beginning. But the greatest form of idolatry that we experience today is the idolatry of the self, the I. It's me, I, myself. Me, I, myself. And this is what we see very clear in the first reading of today, especially in the character of Saul. Saul had just been coming out from the battle with David. He was really happy about what had happened, because David had volunteered and had brought down Goliath and brought victory upon the whole nation. And Saul was very proud of him, was very happy, until these women came out and they started singing, and they said Saul had killed in thousands and David had killed in tens of thousands. And that is when the devil took advantage. And let us remember also that at this moment, Saul is not having the spirit in him. He has now an evil spirit, as we read already in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 14, that he was filled with the Holy Spirit because he was filled with an evil spirit because the Holy Spirit had left him and had gotten into David. So Saul is filled with this spirit of idolatry, the worship of the self. He finds it so strange that people are singing for David. People are singing for him as well, but he envies the way they are singing for David. That David had killed in tens of thousands and Saul had killed in thousands. And this is where he gets angry, he gets jealous, because that has been shaken. His ego has been shaken. That idolatry that he has been worshipping has been shaken. He expects people to worship him. He does not expect people to sing praises for David. And at times we have in one way, maybe in varied degrees, this kind of character. When we begin to want people to worship us, to speak well of us at all times. And when we hear people singing the praises of others, we always find reasons to bring that down. We feel so annoyed by that. We feel so angry with that. This is the same thing that Saul felt. And at that moment, his joy was completely gone. The joy of the fact that he had come out from a war victorious disappeared. And at that moment, David became his enemy. He wanted to kill David. The second character that we find today is David, that despite everything that he had done good, he had to escape and fear for his own life. And we come across such situations when, even though we do the right thing, we will always be judged, we will always be condemned, we will always be spoken of negatively. And what do we do in that situation? Do we curse the people? No. Do we start to curse the people around us? No. Do we start to hate God because of the right thing we are doing and we are always getting the wrong thing? No. Jesus himself said it in the Gospel according to John chapter 15, verse 18. The world will hate you, but remember that it hated me first. We must remember that we not always would receive good praises for the good we do. It's not always like I do the right thing, therefore I have to be praised. When I do the wrong thing, then I will be condemned. No, it doesn't really work like that at all times. At times we do the right thing, and most of the time we would do the right thing, and people would always speak evil about us. So what do we do? Do we stop doing the right thing? No. We must keep doing the right thing at all times for the sake of the kingdom. Remember the last beatitude in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5. That, blessed are you when people speak wrong of you, when they insult you, when they say all sorts of things against you. Remember that your name is written in heaven, because they did that also to the prophets. And the third character that we find today that we identify with ourselves is Jonathan, who is really a symbol of a true Christian, that he realizes that his father wants to kill David for the wrong reason. And first of all, he puts David safe. He says, you must escape now. You must keep away from this evil. He advises him to run away. And then he comes back to his father and he tries to win his father over. He tries to talk to his father and tell him and give him reasons why David does not deserve to be killed. And in the end, he convinces his own father. And this is what Jesus talks about in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 18, that if somebody has sinned against you, go to him and be reconciled with him. Not that if you sin against somebody, but if somebody has sinned against you, go to him and be reconciled. And if it cannot work, get a second person and a third person. And if it cannot work, talk to the church. And the church will intervene in that situation. And this is what Jonathan was doing. My dear brothers and sisters, these three characters are really a reflection of who we are. In one way or another, we reflect these three people. At some points, we are so jealous of the good of others. The fact that people are doing well, we get jealous of it. And the truth about it is that when we begin to praise and to celebrate the blessings that other people receive, God in His way begins to bless us as well. It becomes a prayer in itself when we begin to celebrate the good of others, the successes of others. But when we begin to feel, no, we are the ones who deserve it, we are the ones who are supposed to be praised, then in that way we are beginning to adore ourselves. And that is the worst form of idolatry that we do not even know. Therefore, let us ask God in this Eucharistic celebration that we may always remember the story of David, especially when we go through difficult situations of being condemned, of being brought down by others, this in spite of the good that we do. And that we, like Jonathan, at all times, may always seek the reconciliation and the good of others. Let us ask God, therefore, for the grace to always remember that we are hidden in the palm of His hands.